You're tuned in to the It's Real podcast with your hosts, Kayla Callender and Andrew Yagi. Each week, we'll talk about what happens behind the scenes working full-time in real estate and share with you real-life stories, our successes and failures as we work to help consumers and industry professionals reach their real estate and real-life goals. Here we go. Welcome to episode 2 of the It's Real podcast, where today we're going to talk about what to expect from your agent or lender. I'm Andrew Yagi, and I'm a real estate agent.
Hi, I'm Kayla Callender, and I'm a mortgage lender.
Kayla, what's going on in your world this week?
You know, it's picking up. We're getting to the end of the week, and we're starting to see more applications coming in because people are looking at open houses. We're seeing open houses like we used to not. So that's kind of exciting. People are able to see a house before they buy it. So that's what I'm seeing. How about over in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, I would say we're seeing quite a lot of the same. I'll say we probably don't see quite as many open houses, but I've really been spending a lot of time reconnecting with a lot of the different people that I've been visiting with. Keep in mind, I've only been in real estate for 2.5 years, and we've been lucky as I've been building a team to have already served about 160 clients, but just kind of going down and trying to reconnect with all of the people that I've visited with in my time in real estate who, have talked about maybe making a move and selling, really looking for those that are motivated, that are looking for a really great agent.
Yeah, and they're finding one. And you've been in the industry for, you said 2 years. It's been, right, Andy?
About 2.5.
Does it feel like 2.5? Because I feel like you've been in it for like 10.
Yeah, as they say, time flies. Time especially flies when you're having fun and when you're out there helping people reach their goals, and just really get to the finish line. That's what's so great about what we do, is just helping people, finding that problem and helping people reach their goal. So, Kayla, do you have any stories for us?
Oh boy, do I have stories.
behind the scenes in mortgage.
I was thinking about last Friday, I had helped some clients get the keys to their house. It was a special day, and I was really thinking about this over the weekend, Andy. I was thinking about how these two individuals, they bought their first house, and they were so excited. They were having a couple drinks at closing. They were, high-fiving. They were so excited to start their dreams of owning a home. And I looked back, and I always go back and look, how did I meet them? What was their story? I reflect. And I reflected on these individuals' story, Andy. And I remember them coming to me, and I remember being in my car, and I was driving, and they had told me that they had gone to a lender in town and they were denied, but they didn't know why. And when I hear that, my heart sinks, because it's one thing to be denied or told you can't buy a house today. It's another thing to have no idea why, right? So I reflected on that conversation. And when they came to me, I did a couple tweaks and I said, hey, you guys are actually okay. We have different programs that maybe some do or don't have, or I personally, I'll dig in and strategize and say, okay, how can we do this? And maybe it's not an option to add a co-borrower. Maybe it's not an option to get a gift of money. But what we did, Andy, is we added a co-borrower, and it boom, fixed it. And they got the house within 40 days. So when I look back, I think of my stories with my clients, but I also think about, gosh, what if they wouldn't have come to me? What would have happened? Where would they be? Maybe you see this too, Andy, but you maybe see buyers or sellers that they might work with the first agent that they come across online. They're not sometimes digging in to say, oh, okay, who is that person? What are they about? What are their goals, their values? How many houses have they sold this year? Are they experienced? Are you seeing that on your end too?
We see it all the time, Kayla, and obviously I've been around real estate for about 5 minutes compared to you. I think what you've really been in banking for really, about 20 years, if I think back to, your time coming to college and everything. But, I heard a statistic out there, and I can't quote it right off the top of my head, but I know that there's a high likelihood that if an individual reaches out to an agent, because there are so many real estate agents, and honestly, the barriers to entry are not very high, but there's an extremely high likelihood that that agent's done little to no business that year. And I always tell people, you know what, if you're not out there working with someone who actually is doing real estate full time, and who is actively listing properties and is actively representing buyers, you are not going to be very well represented, because if that individual isn't out there actually in the market and negotiating
Mhm.
deals on a weekly basis, you are going to be at a disadvantage. You bring up the mortgage issue, and just, you know, all about who you're connected with, and I think oftentimes, you know, how many people just get totally frustrated and throw in the towel on their dreams or their goals because they're connected with someone who really either is maybe too busy
Mhm.
to adequately serve them, or doesn't know what they're doing, lacks market knowledge or
Mhm.
industry knowledge. Kayla, I think back a personal story, which, you know, just to be maybe a little vulnerable for a second, when I jumped into real estate 2.5 years ago, you know, rates were low and
Mhm.
the market was competitive. We decided to refinance our house. Because when we bought our last property, rates were pretty high, and I had been working with a lender, and we were supposed to be closed on this refi, but you know, it was during kind of the big refi crunch, when everyone was busy, and for some reason it got pushed several times. I had that timeline kind of in the back of my head that, okay, this will be closed. I decided to leave my job to be self-employed, and as
Yeah.
you know, for self-employed, you don't have that 2-year history. You're not going
No.
to get a secondary market loan, and because they kept pushing it, you know, past my date. I did not get financing from that lender, and that lender tried to put it on me like it was my fault. And that lender, you know, it wasn't a good experience, but in the end, Kayla, it ended up being a good experience because
Mhm.
connected with another lender, someone like
Yeah.
you, who actually said, well, you know, let's look at X, Y, and Z, and let's get this done for you. They not only
Mhm.
were they able to do it, but I'm actually happy I didn't have that good experience,
Yeah.
because we actually saved 0.5% and got locked in at about 2.3%.
Isn't that awesome?
Phenomenal. But now I know
Yeah.
who I can count on, and who I can't count on, who really I don't have a relationship with.
Mhm.
And that's what it's all about,
Mhm.
talking about what to expect from your agent or lender.
Right. And I think that that also gave you this experience to share with your clients now, Andy, that you know darn well that this can happen to anybody. And so often people will just work with the lender that they have their checking account with, or they'll work with the realtor that's on, you know, that they saw online. But I always say, and Andy, I've said this to you before, but you know, when you go to a restaurant and you have the best food, the best
Absolutely.
steak, the best glass of wine, but the service is terrible. Andy, what do you remember when you go to that restaurant? When you write your check, are you probably leaving a tip and leaving, you know, quite satisfied at that point?
You know, I tend to be overly generous. My wife, uh, no, I would be satisfied. I'm going to remember that
You
experience.
are. And I think that so often people are chasing, okay, the house, now the rate, and it doesn't matter who's on my team. But as I've said before, there's one roster. There's one roster, and it's so important to have the best starting five, from agent to lender, title, insurance. It matters who you work with for the biggest transaction of your life. So I encourage people to, if you're working with the lender, awesome. But do you know how that lender operates? Have you talked to others? Have you done your research? Because nobody wants to be 2 days before closing wondering if they're going to move in their house because they haven't heard from their lender.
Mm,
So I think that we can both agree it's incredibly important.
yep, very, very important, you know, to have those experts on your team. And Kayla, I want to talk about, you know, sellers a little bit
Yeah.
too, because again, like I said earlier, I've been really intentional about reaching out to those people who, you know, have kind
Mhm.
of said, hey, you know, I want to sell, but maybe I'm not ready quite yet. And
Mhm.
kind of hand in hand with buying, with having the proper professionals on your team. The same goes for selling, and uh, again, your mileage may vary, depending on who you hire for a real estate agent. I had kind of an interesting call a couple of weeks ago from someone who had called, and they put their home on the market last fall. Their house failed to sell. And so I get this call, and the gentleman says, I asked him, why did you happen to call me? Because he wanted to talk about relisting his house. And he said, Andrew, honestly, I'm jealous of you. And I said, well, you're jealous of me? He said,
Mhm.
I'm jealous of the service you provide your clients. I see your marketing on social media. We get your postcards in the mail. We see the property video highlights that you make for all of the properties you list, and our agent did nothing for us. And so we really want that. And it's true, Kayla, like the status quo kind of in lending or in real estate, most agents, I always tell people, they'll do the 3 Ps. They'll put your listing in the MLS so it gets out to all of the websites online. They'll put a sign in the yard, and then they're going to pray. They're going to pray that someone else brings a buyer, because
Yeah.
realistically, the average agent is doing nothing for marketing, which is really where I found my niche, and taking a
Yeah.
market first approach, really to actively lead generate. Because even when a market is hot, we
Mhm.
still need to be putting our best foot forward to ensure that we get your house as much exposure as possible, bring buyers through the door, and net you the highest possible proceeds.
Mhm.
So had a great conversation with this buyer, or sorry, not buyer, with this seller. Uh,
Mhm.
and then we didn't quite connect. I've been trying to get a hold of them, finally reconnected. And they told me, well, my wife really wanted to go with another agent, another local agent. We want to keep it local. And, I kind of said, wait a minute, do you remember why you called me? And this other agent's a very good agent. I've done
Mhm.
transactions with them. But
Mhm.
again, you told me that you really wanted someone who put you first and really worked hard to market your property. Well, the property came back on the market with this other agent, and hey, that's fine. They have to do what's best
Yeah.
for them. In a sense, uh, there could be a chance that I'll be serving them down the road because little
Mhm.
has changed. But the point
Mhm.
is, Kayla, this isn't about me. This isn't about you. We're here because we want to help you reach your real estate goals, whether you're a consumer, a
Mhm.
buyer, a seller out there, or maybe you're someone in the industry. I connected with another agent the other day who was a newer agent who has
Mhm.
a lot of transactions, just joined a team. So great to network with agents. I've been talking to a couple of new prospective agents from my hometown, from my community or area, really just trying to find out what is their why and give them motivation, but also be brutally honest with them. Like, this profession,
Yeah.
it's really cutthroat. It's really challenging.
Mhm. And you're spot on, Andy, is that we want to help others. And that's why we speak of this, because you've been through the mortgage process in a memorable way that maybe you don't want to remember. I have seen, on my end, when clients don't use a valued real estate agent to list their home, because guess what? They're going to be buying a new home and their other home has to sell, and at a price that they're hoping it can sell for. So I think the moral of the story, the reason that we're here is we want to help, because we know how to do this job and do it right, because it's about not just the end game of a house, or a rate. It's about the experience too, and getting the best of the best.
Absolutely, said very well.
Mhm.
Um, Kayla, I think we've provided a lot of information today. Hopefully, some great tidbits for whoever's watching. And like I said, if Kayla or I can ever be a resource to you, whether you're a consumer buying or selling, uh,
Mhm.
even in all 50 states, Kayla, I know you can work in all 50 states. I
Okay.
also have, partners or agents that I'm connected with across the country. Reach out to us if you're
Mhm.
another agent, another lender. We always love to kind of mastermind or visit as well.
Mhm. We're
So,
here to help.
yeah, any final thoughts, Kayla?
My final thoughts are: it's never too soon to start having conversations with people that can help you reach your dreams of creating generational wealth.
Absolutely. And surround yourself with good people.
Amen.
Well, that wraps up episode 2 of the It's Real podcast. Kayla, have a great week.
I will if you will.
We'll see you.